Hi, my name is Emily Kerry, and I've been part of Soma Tacoma for the last 7 years. In the last 7 years, I've been part of multiple missional communities in the context of Soma Tacoma. I've been in missional communities with a lot of families. I've been in missional communities with a lot of single people. And it's been a great opportunity to be exposed to so many different opportunities in different contexts. In this time, I am single and unmarried. I've begun to ask those questions of what does life as somebody who doesn't have my own family look like, living missionally, living with all these families, and then living with all my single friends wanting to go out all the time, wanting to have a social life, and at the same time having so many close friends who have little kids at home, who serve a ton with the community, both my single friends and married friends, and then understanding the balance of the in-between and what God has called me to do and how he's called me to live out my singleness for his glory ultimately. And so in these last number of years, it's been really special to me to be invited into a number of families at Soma. And when I say invited into, living everyday life, showing up and watching kiddos and doing piles of laundry and cleaning the kitchen and the toilet and just hanging out, taking the little kids on one-on-one dates, going to, get pedicures with the mom, being able to serve alongside the whole family, having them take care of my dog, coming over and taking care of their kids so they can go on anniversary trips. There's so many different things that it's looked like over the years. I think that my paradigm has shifted. I thought as a single person, I knew a lot about getting married. I know nothing at all. And I thought that all married people, once their kids went to bed, had date night every single night. I thought that they put the kids to bed and got to hang out and make nice food and watch movies together. And then my friends went out of the country for 8 days and left their 4 kids with me. And I realized once they go to bed, I need to do loads of laundry, make sure they have clean socks and underwear, pick up the house, make sure their book bags are packed for school, pack their lunches with multiple allergies so they all can't have the same sandwich, make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted so that when they woke up the next morning, I would feed them and get them out the door for school. And it was a lot of work. I had 2-3 loads of laundry, every couple days to do. It was a lot of work. And I realized married couples with kids don't have date night every night. I realized that their everyday living looks a lot different, and I'm growing in my understanding of what that means. I think one beautiful picture that I just recently had was I went and was able to partner with another church that we have close connection with out of town. And so I went out of town for 5 days and was serving in high capacity. And before I left, I was speaking to one of their leaders about their day of rest. And I just asked, are you going to take a day of rest tomorrow? And the leader of that other church said, yes. And I said, well, what does that look like for you? And he is married with 4 kids. And he told me, I'm going to my kids' school. I'll be serving her classroom all day long. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go home and lay in bed and sleep. And as I came home and returned to town, I got a call from a family that I live close life with here. And as I answered the phone, she sounded a little panicked and realized, oh, you just got home. Oh, are you resting tomorrow? And I said to her, what do you need? And she explained that she had triple booked their family at the same time in the afternoon. And one of those commitments was that she was called into work. And so I said, do you need me to pick up your boys from school? And she said, yes. And she said, but it's your day of rest. And I said, actually, I realized yesterday that if I was a mom, which I want to be one day, I wouldn't get to come home from this amazing experience serving and just lay in bed all day. I would probably be catching up on cleaning the house, taking care of little ones, making meals, and getting back into the normal rhythm of everyday life. And because I didn't have kids and I'm not married yet, I don't have to do those things. And yet the Spirit convicted me that living as good family meant that I would go ahead and join in the normal rhythms of family and go pick up the kids from school. And it was such a great opportunity. And that day will forever live in my mind because something shifted for me in that moment, that I really am part of a bigger family. I'm part of a family who serves one another, who really understands what it is to be present and active in these kids' lives, and not just picking them up for school, but gospeling their hearts and them gospeling my hearts and teaching me that just because I'm an adult, I don't know everything. Walking with parents as they transition from instructing their kids and having them respect and listen to them to transitioning into teenage life and where we use influence more than authority in their life. Yes, there's still authority, but God uses his authority with us with influence. He doesn't force us to do anything. And yet I'm learning that. I'm learning what grace with little humans looks like, that it doesn't look like I'm right and you're wrong all the time. And so it's been neat to be part of a family. And I do struggle that I want a family. I want to be married. And yet what I've come to the conclusion of more than anything is that I want God to be glorified most of all. I want to be able to live in everyday life and know that what God's calling me to for this day and this moment is to live out faithfulness to him, to be able to live as part of a family, to be able to participate in the daily rhythms of life. Even though I'm not yet married, I still am part of a grander family. I've been asked a lot how that works out in the everyday life here at Soma Tacoma. And it's been really easy for me to engage. I think my heart was always predisposed to wanting to be part of a family. I had a broken family growing up where all I wanted was a really good family network, something that was stable and consistent. And so for me, it's been really easy to jump in and embrace life within the context of family, couple really significant families, a handful, in fact. And so I think, though, one of the greatest things I think that we need to learn as a larger family is that we have to be willing to ask our single friends to engage in family life. I think it's hard. I remember the first time that my friends, one of these families fought in front of me. It was very tense. I wanted to disappear. If I could have been Casper the Ghost at that moment, I would have been. And yet staying in that taught me what it looks like to fight well and to submit to the Father, to submit to God as a good and gracious and loving Father in that moment and let gospel truth be said. To see how words can be really damaging and hurtful. And yet my friends were just as vulnerable and honest in that moment to let me stay in it with them. But not everybody's willing to do that. We all know families who have never fought in public, and they look like the perfect family. And what we need is families and people who are living out the gospel on mission to be willing to let the mess overflow and to touch our lives. And not only just overflow, but to invite single people into your home. If you have an extra room, would you consider who God might have live with you? Not just so it's free babysitting, although they should do that. And not babysitting. Let them be an aunt or uncle to your kids. Let them own household chores. Let them actually feel part of the family. Let them free you up for a date night. Ask them for what you need. Actually make your needs known too, because the single people don't always know what they need. They don't know that they're going to have to help a child one day learn how to be potty trained. But when you get invited into the process of potty training a little child and the consistency that happens with that, it is such a blessing, because now I don't need to go read blogs and books on potty training. I've actually seen it functionally work out multiple times in the context of community. And so I just really think that it would be so helpful if we really were willing to let other people walk into our lives. It gets messier, but I love Proverbs 27:17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And for married people, you know so much that means that When iron strikes iron, sparks fly. You understand that. But single people haven't lived through the intensity of that sometimes. When their first response, when sparks start to fly, is to flee, to run away. And I think the greatest thing is to call them to stay, to call them to a greater idea of what family is. Not just their ideal family, but reality of living out the gospel in the everyday. So if you have an extra bedroom at home, invite someone to live with you. Have them contribute financially, possibly, emotionally, physically to the family network. Ask them, call them to it, and be willing to be vulnerable yourselves to be able to do that, because it's hard. And so I just have loved my experience of being part of family, and I really suggest for anybody living out the gospel that this is a great way to incorporate someone else into your family, into God's bigger picture for what he intends the church to be.